Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Tori if you're new here, and today we're going to be talking about some food distribution centers and food plants that have recently caught on fire and burned to the ground. If you're new here, hey, I'm Tori. I run Mountain Mama Living. I make videos 4 to 5 times a week, almost 7. I'm not sure yet. We're still testing out if I want to be posting every single day, but if you are new here, we would love it if you hit the subscribe button. I teach you to be prepared on a budget. And sometimes we talk about the government and what they're doing to the American people. So this is a beverage chat. I did get my hands on a Yuengling. If you've never had a Yuengling, it's from the great state of Pennsylvania where my heart is. And it's not the best beer, but it's nostalgic, and you can't get it here in Colorado unless someone smuggles it in. So I'm excited. I got my hands on one. I can only have about one because it's not my favorite, but I do just like the taste of it. It reminds me of home for the holidays. So cheers to that. Let's get right into this. Ooh, yep. That's a Yuengling. So before we start, I do want to just touch on one thing. We are going to be talking about food and food insecurity. So if you are sensitive to that, I want you to know that I'm here to chat about it. We talk about this in a semi-positive way, but I will be revealing some things that I have found in my own research that might be a little bit shocking to you or your family. If you are experiencing food insecurity, dial your local 211. There are resources out there for you. You just need to reach out. If you're uncomfortable doing that, or if somehow you can't do that, contact me at mountainmamaliving@gmail.com and I will help find you food in your area. I cannot financially support that for you, but I will help you to the best of my abilities. I've done it for people before. I've done it for my own family in the past. There are ways to get food for you and your family. They're not going to be the healthiest, but they will be satiating. And at the end of the day, being fed is just so much more important. Okay, last time I had my laptop and we were doing research from there, but I do have my phone. I don't want you to think I'm answering texts or anything. I am researching these topics for you. This has been on my mind for a while. I was hesitant to talk about this, but back in April of 2022, Azure Standard, which all of you know I absolutely adore. I love their products. It's basically a healthy, organic online store for those of us that can't get it in our area, or maybe you just want to support them. They have food distribution centers. In one of their main buildings last year in Oregon caught fire and it burned to the ground along with everything inside of it. The CEO got on and started speaking about what was going on. And I think the message was communicated that this fire was not accidental. This fire was intentional, and I think it's something that we need to talk about. In 2023 alone, there were 18 fires to food distribution centers in the United States, and they were random. They weren't only organic plants. Some of them were huge. Some of them were on the smaller scale. Some were family owned. Some were large corporation owned. But the one thing that they had in common is supplying food to the American people. So I will say this, if you are doing your own research, you're going to run into the same problem I did. And all I have to do is just look up food distribution fires in 2023. And you would think that would just give you a number, right? It might have some articles on where they were or how many there were or something like that. But we are gonna push go here. And the first article is factcheck.org. You can pause my video now and do this on your own, but it says unfounded claims about frequency and causes of food plant fires. So I'm like, oh shoot, maybe there will be another article on how many fires there were or the location of those fires. But no, the next one is www.nfpa.org. Nothing to see here. Food processing plants all over the country seem to be catching fire. A guest on his show later called the incidents obviously suspicious. Fact Check came in and said it's not suspicious. These were accidental fires. Next one, USA Today. Fact Check. False claim fires are evidence of planned food shortages. I'm going to do one more. Fact Focus. AP News. Food plant fires fuel conspiracy theory. Another one, Verify. No, people are not setting food processing plants on fire. That's absurd. Another one, politicalfact.com. This 95 item list doesn't prove there are ongoing plans to create food. The only article in the first Google search is going to be from My Patriot Supply, and that's a North American plant and factory disasters in 2023, the exact list that I was looking for. I love My Patriot Supply. There's no problem here, but I will say they may have a biased opinion, and I try and go for neutral articles. Let's just humor this because My Patriot Supply seems to have the answer to my question. The first one is going to be Tyson Foods hog plant, Madison, Nebraska. April 24th, 2023. The cause of the fire has not been identified. Several fire departments were called in to help the city's volunteer firefighters. The plant had about 1,200 employees and normally processes 8,200 hogs a day. The next one, Red River Commodities, 2 fires in Fargo, North Dakota, April 12th, 2023. Crews first went for reports of a fire in the oven, then about an hour later, firefighters rushed back for reports of flames coming from the chimney. The plant processes sunflower seeds and other crops into food ingredients and products. This one was a key article for me because seed oils are very much part of our American diet, and I always encourage everyone to get seed oils out. Are sunflower seeds terrible for you? No, not in their normal form, but when they are turned into the oil, that is when it can be detrimental to your health. So typically seed oils are combined with hexane and a bunch of other chemicals, and they press it out and extract what they can out of that. But it is so far from an actual sunflower seed, and it gets into our food and it causes a range of issues, cardiovascular issues. Seed oils are endocrine disruptors, and they're also neurotoxins. So you just have to keep those kinds of things in mind. But I have a feeling this video will probably span into a part 2 or 3 because I have a lot to say about the American food industry. The next fire was in South Fork Dairy Explosion, DeMitt, Texas, April 10th, 2023. 18,000 cows were killed in an explosion and fire that rocked the South Fork Dairy Farm in Texas Panhandle, making it the deadliest fire involving cows in nearly a decade. Next one, March 29th, 2023, Basic American Foods Processing Plant fire, Moses Lake, Washington. The plant experienced a big fire in March 2023. The plant suffered extensive damage, and it took hours for firefighters to get under control. The next one, Pickle Factory fire in New Jersey. A 3-alarm fire destroyed Pickle King, a gherkin producer in New Jersey in 2023, and threatened nearby schools. Another one, Chocolate Factory fire in West Reading, Pennsylvania. 7 people were killed in an explosion and several others were injured at the RM Partner Company Chocolate Factory in West Reading, Pennsylvania. The explosion also caused damage to nearby buildings. Next, Ruiz Foods plant in Dinuba, California. That was February of 2023. A fire occurred. The plant makes frozen Mexican food sold in grocery stores. It's believed the fire started in the building's air system. And the list goes on. There's Wisconsin. There was one in Canada, 2 in Canada, 1 in Alaska, 1 in Connecticut, another one in Wisconsin, and so many more. To me, when I read those articles, it's clearly a threat to our food and our food supply system. And it is heightened because we are trying to recover from the pandemic and all of the supply chain issues we already have, as well as a variety of factors on our actual soil, crop production, and various reasons. I want to talk about meat. And I know some of you are vegan, some of you are vegetarian that follow me. I want you to know that that diet is not innocent either, but let's talk about meat. We're just going to start with beef, and I didn't know this when I first started researching it, but a lot of our beef, I believe it's upwards of 60% of our beef is imported. And I'm not saying any of that beef from those countries is terrible, but the way that it is brought into the United States and peddled to the masses is a little iffy, and it's not truthful. So when it is brought into the United States, if the United States has some sort of handling in that beef, it can be stamped as a USA made product. So even if you're going to the grocery store and seeing that it's from the United States, it could be something as minimal as processing that meat and putting it in a saran wrap package, refrigerating it, and then putting it on the grocery store shelves. That could make it approved for the United States made stamp. Even if you're doing grass-fed, grass-finished beef, it's the same situation. So I had to do a lot of digging to actually figure that out. I heard it on a chit chat on one of the podcasts that I listened to. I didn't really believe it. I trusted the people that were talking about it, but I did a little bit more deep diving. It's taken me about 2 weeks to actually figure out the truthful answer from the sources that I actually trust. And to me, it is a bit scary. It's an entire lie that most of us don't know a lot about. And the reason I was talking about vegan and vegetarians is because they do the exact same thing with our fruits and vegetables. So that's one food that is being messed with. And when I'm looking at these fires, these accidental fires, I'm looking at who would profit from food being lost. So that's exactly what I Googled. And the first article says food companies reap record profits amid hunger crisis. And that was October of 2023. So let's read what that has to say. The largest food trading companies have become unregulated financial institutions, according to a blistering 29-page chapter of the 2020 2023 UNCTAD Trade and Development Report entitled Food Commodities, Corporate Profiteering and Crises. The profits of 4 major food traders rise during periods of market lows and during crises, notes the author. The bottom line, more than 345 million people are facing high levels of food insecurity this year. That's a rise of 200 million from where we were pre-pandemic. Private companies can't necessarily solve the problem, but their unprecedented profits do seem rather distasteful all the same. So there's a lot to say about that. We'll go to the next article. And that's from Barron's.com, and that is World Hunger is on the rise. These companies have solutions. So I do like to talk about that. Not so much the negative, but ways that companies are kind of working with the American people and helping to get food to those in need. Food prices were rising even before the war. So this article just says there's several food insecurity solutions and to contact your local 211. So exactly what I say. And then from there, depending on your area, it will list where you can get food banks, churches, schools, other people, neighbors, bartering, working at different restaurants and getting food in exchange. That's what I did in high school and college. I came home with a meal every single day, 3 times a day, in order to sustain myself through those years. And I'm going to put the phone down and talk to you person to person, try and get a little comfortable and tell you how I feel about this, because if we are losing our food and the distribution centers around our globe, but mainly in the United States, then they are going to have to produce more food. And guess who owns a lot of that land and a lot of the companies that are putting coatings on crops and are injecting our meat with various chemicals that can cause harm. We've talked about him before. I'm going to try and be a little better in these videos about disguising, but you know, Big Bill, he owns a lot of farmland, and he also has a lot of money to invest in companies that will affect our food. So that's where I'm seeing this. I'm not going to say 2024 is going to be a year of famine and just sickness, but I will say in the future, it's going to be a little bit shaky being able to figure out where to get food that has not been touched. It's absolutely outrageous how much processed food is out there on the market, and I get it. It's easy and it's cheap and you can get it on the table to feed your family. But I talk about this on the channel all the time, and I believe in this because I am living it. But I do think food is the number one cause for a lot of our ailments, a lot of our behavior issues, a lot of our health issues, and especially in our children. I was a 90s baby. We grew up with a lot of processed foods, a lot of conveniences, and I've talked to parents and they had no idea. Obviously, they would never want that for us, but a lot of us are having issues with fertility, and we are getting diagnosed with ailments that our grandparents have as young as 25, and you have to figure out where it's coming from, where is the root cause, and there's a number of places it can be coming from. The number one is going to be food, water, and air. That is why I talk about trying to detox your home, trying to figure out non-toxic swaps. Quick little plug-in, I am hosting a Zoom tonight, and I'm super excited to be partnering with a company that's American-made non-toxic products. They've been around for 38 years. They grew by being a word-of-mouth company. They give back to their employees, essentially. If you're buying from this shopping club, you can refer people and earn an extra side income. You can find the link in the description box. I will be there along with my managers, and it is just to show you a tour of the store. It's a privately owned company. This is how they do business, face to face, and that's how I like to do business. So if you want to join me, that link is down in the description box. If you can't make it, email me and I can give you some information about Switchaway USA. But back to it. When I see people talking about these food shortages and these distribution centers just losing everything, I see a lot of people immediately say, yes, buy local or just grow your own food. And while that seems great and I would love to do all of that, sometimes that's not attainable for everybody. So I want people to just keep that in mind. It's not a simple fix. I often talk about seeds and how I keep them in my supply. I stock non-GMO heirloom seeds. I have seed packets from so many different companies, but I've been able to keep the same seeds and just keep planting those plants year after year, save those seeds and just plant them again the next year. The seeds that I get are under $50, are always linked in my description box. It's from a lovely woman, and she includes a book of what you can do with those seeds medicinally if you have a great harvest. And she has such a successful germination rate. I've maybe lost 2 or 3 starts out of the hundreds that I have done, and that's probably my fault. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but when you're talking about gardening, there's a variety of factors that go into that plant, like I've spoke about, and that is going to be water, that's going to be soil, and that's going to be sunlight and air quality. And guess what? There are toxins in every single one of those. Whether you think that's intentional or not, it is very true. So soil has been another thing on my mind. I always suggest trying to start some sort of compost to add to your soil, but you definitely need some nitrogen for a plant to thrive. And I've seen so many soil samples done, soil studies done over the past 3 years, and they are finding that the soil that is commercially given to us, that we go and buy at the store, have low levels of nitrogen. And that's a problem in itself because the plant won't thrive. And then you think of your water. I am in a rural neighborhood. I have neighbors, and we are hooked up to the town's water. And when I looked up our water, man, our levels were not the best. It had some really harmful chemicals in there, but that is the only way I am able to water my garden. It does not rain here a lot in Colorado, and oftentimes I'm watering my garden 3 times a day, and it's still not enough. I can't afford to filter my water and water my garden. I could probably do that for my family and our bath water, our drinking water, all of the important ones, but for our garden, it's gonna get the town water, and like I said, it's contaminated. Then the sun and air itself, we all know that weather can be manipulated by a variety of reasons. I think that's come into light recently. This is a tough subject to talk about with people, so I'm not here to argue about that. I've done my own research and I am confident in what I'm speaking about here, but bottom line, just picking up and growing a garden is not as easy as people make it out to be. And then moving on to local crops and local meat. Oftentimes, especially in my area, I'm not finding a good quality meat. They are using those chemicals in their soil. They are injecting their cattle and chicken with random vaccines that are deemed necessary for them to actually sell to the public. And that's not on them. A lot of farmers aren't intending to harm a vast majority of the public, especially in a community that they thrive in. But again, moral of the story, it's rigged. Every law involving food is just another means of control. And it dates back. A vast majority of these company CEOs or founders have really corrupt morals. I'm going to give you one example. If you look up the company Kellogg, I believe he was a co-founder, but John Harvey Kellogg. Kellogg's was a Seventh-day Adventist found company, and I have no shade towards the religion, but they did have some beliefs. Typically, they were vegetarian, and he wanted to create something that would prevent lust. And he believed if you consumed meat that you would be lustful. He was trying to prevent sex before marriage and minimal sex while married. So he decided to create some bland cereal, and that's where it came about. Believe it or not, Kellogg is one of those companies that is owned by that big company we don't really like. That company rhymes with smack lock. That's the best I have for you today because my Yingling is not that strong. But if you have a better disguised word, I'm all ears. Just drop it down in the comments below. But wrapping up this video, I talk about prepping on the channel often, and I talk about prepping on a budget. And a lot of the time when I'm going to the store and finding these budget-friendly items, I'm finding items that are not the best for you. Sometimes they are non-organic, and a lot of the time those non-organic items are causing some severe illnesses in myself, my family, and all of you. I'm going to be a little vulnerable with you here. In the past, my family has just not had the best luck when it comes to finances, but we have so much love in our family. We're very fortunate for what we have. We turned to some government assistance for food. We unfortunately did not qualify in the state of Colorado, and I have a lot to say about that, but we are a single income white family, and there were a lot of strikes against us when it came to those variables. Contrary to popular belief, I did not make a lot on YouTube. I still don't, but I love connecting with all of you. So in my mind, that is a win, and that's why I keep my channel going. But before I actually applied, I looked at the list of food that I could get if we were accepted into the program, and it was a bit scary. There was no organic food. There was no foods in there without a harmful seed oil, without some sort of natural flavoring, without some sort of chemical that was going to harm my family. I think you really need to think about those connections, low income and food scarcity, along with cumbersome ailments that require pharmaceuticals. Which makes me go back to what I've said in the past, that big pharma really runs it all. And I think the best thing that came from those government shutdowns was that all of us started to wake up and realize that the government doesn't have our best interest at heart. I always say to turn to your community, try and get involved as much as you can, and that will give you some sense of security, but the government's not there to help you. I know that's a very general statement. I'm sure there are plenty of people in the government that genuinely have our best interests at heart, but they have so many hoops to go through because of those higher ups. Just remember, if you're sick and broke, they can control you even more. And with that, I'm going to end today's video. I believe there will be a part 2 to talk about here. Of course, I want to hear your opinions, good or bad, in the comments down below. If you don't agree with me, that's totally fine. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well. Don't forget, I'm hosting that Zoom tonight. I'd love to see some of you there. Please don't feel obligated to join the movement with me. It is just something that I have found that I think will be great for your family as well. If you're new here, I would love it if you hit the subscribe button, give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, share it if you can. As always, stay adventurous, stay creative. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye, y'all.
The trees, they are singing to the tune of a song.